Welcome to Teaching Orchestra. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the left-hand work for Labyrinth. The left hand is not typically what hurts orchestras in Labyrinth. It's typically the bowings, and we covered that in the last video. And style will also help to make your orchestra shine, and I'm going to cover that in my next video. But today, let's look at the left hand. Well, if left hand isn't the problem, then why are you talking about it? All right, calm down, listen. If we can teach the left hand faster, then we have more time to teach things like style, right? So your orchestra can shine brighter. So let's be efficient in our classrooms. And if we look at Labyrinth, we'll notice that it uses a series of sequences based on 2 or 4 note patterns. So pick a note, play it 3 times, go down to the lower neighbor, come back up and play it again, go down to the lower neighbor, then come back up, done. All right, does this remind you of something? Remember my accent exercises from the teaching companion? Remember the deviation from the traditional Western phrase accentuation? Does it look like Vivaldi to you? No, right? So where are the accents? The accents are in the same place as the lower neighbor notes from the sequences. The sequences provide a melodic direction that helps with the phrasing. I like to start with the open string as the lower neighbor and work my way up the pattern, all right? Start slowly and work your way up to 140 beats per minute. What a lot of students have trouble with is the second group of 8th notes, and that's what I do here in my teaching companion. I set off D as the lower neighbor first, so it's E, go down to the lower neighbor, come back up, down to the lower neighbor, back up, okay? And then we go up the pattern, F natural, then G, then A, and that covers you for that sequence. I like to have them practice these exercises slowly and gradually increase the metronome. Please don't play it through once and then go to the next one and then go to the next one. It's not a great way to use this teaching companion. With all of the repeated notes, sometimes if they don't understand the and of beat 2 or the and of beat 4, they'll hear a clash, a whole step clash in between the upper and lower note. And if you're not playing it slowly enough, the student might not recognize their error because of all the repeating notes. And sometimes the composer will add some sort of chromatic alteration and making it a real sequence rather than just a tonal sequence. So then there might be like a half-step clash, which would make it more obvious. But in the teaching companion, they stick to this finger pattern and they can learn it pretty quickly. But if you slow it down, they can hear where somebody might be playing a G when they need to be playing an A or vice versa. In Labyrinth, however, like in measure 61, you'll see that they have a C natural to B, but then the finger pattern changes. So they have a C sharp to B. So they could have a half-step clash here perhaps, or a whole step clash if they're not lining up these left-hand notes correctly, if they're not playing the correct notes and or rhythm. The other difficult parts are where we have slurred notes, and we get it twice, one in measure 16 and the other one in measure 99. We only have it in the inner voices in both cases, in the second violins and violas. Who's it gonna hurt if everybody learns it? Not just the second violins and violas. Nobody. That's who. I mean, I'm not a doctor.
What'd you get that for?
For knocking Mr. Burns out of a 3rd-story window.
Makes sense to me. Did he die?
What am I, a doctor?
Ah, my favorite Simpsons quote of all time. But yes, I am not a doctor, but I have yet to learn of a student dying from learning music outside of their assigned parts. So we're all going to learn it. And here in the teaching companion, I isolate them by measure. But if they're getting really tripped up, have them play the first 3 notes, stop, and then play the next 3. So here we can just play the first 3 notes, 1, 2, and then stop, 3, 4, and have them just woodshed it 3 notes at a time to make it easier. If your group is a little more advanced, they can woodshed them just by playing it slower over and over and over again at a slow tempo and then working their way up to 140 beats per minute. All right, so other than those two things, what else do we have here? There's this espressivo ostinato in the first violins that comes up a couple of times. It's 4 measures long, and it's not very hard. It's like the 8th note sequence. It's not melody. So strategies for this, it depends on your students and their responsibility level, but you could send the first violins into a practice room to work on it, but it's your call, all right? I'm not a lawyer, but leaving students unattended, if that works for you, you could just have them play on their own. And if they choke on their rosin or suffer some sort of injury, Teaching Orchestra at Teaching Orchestra and teachingorchestra.com are not responsible for any damages that your students suffer. Hopefully, like in this great state of Texas, or a great state that has immunity for its teachers like Texas. And if you don't, and you have to live in a state with laws or whatever that holds you more accountable, that's on you. But here in Texas, as long as you're doing your best, we have liability waivers. If you don't, maybe move. It's not going to take more than a day for your students to learn this stuff, and it's not very hard. At 140 beats per minute, it's fast, but it's not very hard. Everything is pretty much stepwise, and it falls pretty well in the hand. It's basically just a scale, right? A minor. So we pretty much just start on a C, and we wander a bit, and we go back to visit F natural, because half position, right? Okay, fun. In my next video, I'm going to be going over style, which is where the actual fun is. So I hope to see you then.